Who want one last trip to the long trail?
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. With CEO finally behind us, we can look forward to see what comes next. And with that, I want to give a congrats to Atif for finally breaking the second place curse and taking home the victory. Even though I dislike the character Anna, you would be a fool to not give this guy his credit for playing Anna to perfection and dominating the whole tournament. At the tournament, CEO, you still had a lot of players like Joka confused as to how to play Season 2. You had some people straight up saying that the game is trash. We're looking forward to the next update to fix this. And then you also have the usual complaints from the pro players where they're talking about the monitors. The monitors every year, every tournament, it's just not it. So the monitors that they use is the Sony End Zone monitors. And I was told that these monitors are like 600. So they're like very expensive monitors. But for whatever reason, the pro players just do not like them, and I wonder why. And also, what can they do to remedy this situation? When you look forward to what happens next, you got to talk about Fakamaram releasing in 20 days. For you guys watching this video, it will probably be 19. Fakamaram releases in 20 days, and a Tekken Talk will be coming soon. They do a Tekken Talk for every character, so Fakamaram will get his eventually. But what we know so far is that this update will include, obviously, Fakamaram, but it will also include the DLC Pac-Man stage that is a remaster of the geometric playing stage, and then also you have the Pac-Man themed battle pass that will have some Tekken stuff in there as well. Then new shop items, and then you also have to note the final scheduled balance patch. Now they did put a little asterisk on this, and they said if they do need to do more, they will, but they do not want to impact the upcoming tournaments, which is Evo. That's a big one. So they want to do a balance patch to hold us over from there, and then maybe around the time of Armor King, you know, in October or something, they'll step back in and do another one. But final balance patch, the details we know so far is that rage arts are seeming to be nerfed. It probably will be made more punishable than -15. Not every character can launch that. And then also they did say something along the lines of small character buffs, which means, and they tried to highlight that this will not impact balance. But how do you buff a character and not impact balance? But also people don't like the word buff, not in this current Season 2 environment. So a lot of people are confused, worried about that. But once again, we'll see what they do in the Tekken Talk, because I'm sure all of these things will be broken down. And when that time happens, I'll make a follow-up video. So subscribe and stay tuned for that. Now, when you move on to the different topic, this one is referring to Evo. Now, Evo is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This year, there's 3 Evos: France, Vegas, and Japan. Next year, there's going to be a 4th Evo, which is crazy. Evo's getting bigger, it's getting more popular, and as a result, the price is increasing. I made a video kind of talking about this, not necessarily complaining, but just being shocked at how much the price that the tickets are for Evo, because they usually say like 60, but then you look at this and it's 400. So I was just shocked at that. And then I was also just talking about how Sony is putting a lot of their cards into Evo, creating fighting games, creating sticks. They're really going all in on fighting games, and it's amazing to see. It just sucks that this price is like this. But speaking of price, Evo did something a little bit after this that kind of upset a lot of people. They put this tweet out and they said, thinking of going to Evo 2025 in Las Vegas this August. Get 50% off Evo Las Vegas 3-day ticket bundle. Evo is giving people who signed up later a 50% off. So instead of paying $400, you can pay $200 and get the same deal as everyone else who bought day one. And the reason why people are upset is because the most dedicated players buy day one. A lot of people just feel like now they're just going to wait. They're not going to buy early. They're not going to buy immediately. They're just going to wait as long as possible, and then eventually Evo will do a 50% off, and then they will buy. And I mean, it's fair. You know, why would you pay $400 when you could wait a little bit and pay $200 and have the same experience? Looking at some of these tweets, someone says, okay, listen, I want Evo to be successful too, but having this come out after a lot of FGC who are regular Evo supporters have already registered doesn't feel great. Don't you usually want to incentivize people to sign up early with cheaper regular prices? Now we know the tech is just to wait as late as you can to get your prices half off. The reason why I highlight this is because we usually see companies do this where they reach a lot of success and they start to make very small but bad decisions. And over time, those small decisions may turn into bigger decisions, bigger bad decisions, but then it also will just add up and players will be frustrated over time. So this is something that Sony should understand, like, oh, okay, we kind of messed up there. And then next year you can either reverse it. But doing the full 50, especially as a surprise, I don't blame the players for feeling the way that they do. But if we talk about a little bit more of the controversies that's going on, you have to talk about the DEI conversation that's going on around Tekken. This is the discussion that's happening around the entire gaming industry as a whole. Like, you have games like Stellar Blade leading the charge. You have two different type of news articles here. I don't want to dig too deep into the politics of these games. We'll talk about Tekken in a second, but just to show you guys how this conversation from Tekken is kind of extending off of this, you have this Twitter account here, The Learning Law, which says the Japanese versus the Korean way. Now, Tekken is a Japanese game, and this is where they start to get pulled into the conversation. The Learning Law makes another tweet and says, in case you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in the Japanese gaming market lately. Now, this is a screenshot from a year ago, and we'll add more context to this soon. But Bandai Namco basically had an event where they were talking about how they want to make sure that their characters is super diverse. And you can just see the bullet points here. You could pause, read if you want more details. Now, you have offshoots of this same conversation as well, where this person says, why am I not surprised? That explains why every girl in Tekken is flat as an empty dish. And they have this picture here of Reina, like, yikes. And then also you have this image here of all the female character models. Speaking to this image, I know that the Tekken developers make all of the character models the same for male and female because it's easier to add outfits to all of them. I mean, look at this. They're all wearing the same outfit. If their body proportions were different, they would have to manually size it and fit it, which would take more time. So this is a cutting corner option more so than like a DEI. That's just my understanding. I could be wrong. Now, to dig a little deeper into this conversation of male versus female, someone says, pray the next DLC is in the original black female character or a woman in general. Now, my prediction is a male character because you have two new female characters already, which is Reina and Azazina. Victor is the only new male, so it would make sense to do a fourth, but a lot of people want the other. This person says, I'm thoroughly convinced that the majority of the Tekken FGC has something against female characters. Now, this is something that I noticed as well. Like, for example, when you talk about which characters get hate versus which characters doesn't. I mean, people love to talk trash about Asuka's story, Lily's story, all of the female characters' story. But then Raven, Dragunov, Marda, King, a lot of the male characters, Steve Fox, Yoshi, Paul Phoenix, all suffer the same problems of having a terrible story, but they don't get as nearly as much hate for it. And there is a lot of bias there. But also, too, I don't know what to describe this as. I don't think players are just hating women or anything like that. I don't know. The usage data for female characters is much lower than male characters, except for Reina. What could describe this? Is it hate? Is it just guys liking the guy characters and that's what they relate to? It's a guy-dominated game. I think boil it down to everyone hates everything is probably not the best way to go. This person says, like, there's literally only 12 women on the roster with 27 men, possibly 28. I got called all type of slurs for saying that the ratio between men and women is huge, and there are some needs for more unique female characters on the roster. Being a fan of Tekken as a girl's heart. Well, see, this is something that we talked about in the past. In Tekken 7, people were wanting more diverse women. A lot of the women in Tekken, their personalities is super similar. They behave the same. They even look the same. When you look at the male characters, it's just a huge contrast. If you compare Brian to Dragunov to Leroy to Claudio to Paul, it's different. But when you compare Azina to Zafina to Alyssa to Brent, like, they're all like doll-like characters. But this is the developers. The developers doesn't stop, even though the players say to stop. But here's where we get Harada's take, because Harada responded to all of this stuff in the past, and I'm happy that this person here saved you a click, said, remember when Harada lost his mind over these tweets in the past. And when you look at what bro is referring to, it's this here, where Harada's literally responded to a thread from this same person, by the way, learning the law. So this person got a response from Harada last year and is doing the same thing again this year, right? And Harada says, read this and don't ask me for anything. I myself have never heard of these names, and the designs are all based on our own decisions. That is also clear if you read the original article and look at Tekken 8. We may weigh the community standards against what we want to express, but we do not base our standards on following any specific studies. Now, Harada is saying this in response to Tekken getting called out for censorship and all this stuff a year ago, right? There was some person out there who was complaining that Lily, in her new design, wears shorts under the skirt instead of having the underwear like in past designs. As you can see here, it says, well, tell them that the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirt is a bit too short. So this is someone that would be telling Harada to fix his characters because they're too revealing, and he basically shut it down. He said, no, we don't do this, we do what we want, and that's how it is.